Funding for this program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through a grant from the Pacific Mountain Network Program Fund.
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
The story of the Koshari Indian dancers is unique in the annals of youth leadership and youth achievement, written about in books, magazines, and seen in films all over the world. Let's look into the workings of this small youth group who built with the income of their dancing feet one of the greatest American Indian museums and art galleries in the world. Their goal? To preserve the heritage of the American Indian forever. This is the Koshari's own war dance, choreographed by them and dedicated to Koshari warriors who have fallen in battle in this nation's wars beginning in World War II. The dance is a composite taken from war dances of several Plains Indian tribes of America. Notice the face, streaked with angry slashes of war paint, meant to frighten the enemy and also to show that this warrior himself is ready to meet death. Notice the strutting arrogance of the steps. Every movement is meant to show contempt for death, the enemy this warrior must soon meet. This seems to be the manner of warriors since the beginning of time. In this way, they prepared themselves for battle, in some cases disguised their fear of tomorrow. A man who faces death in battle is better off if he can develop contempt for the enemy, even toward death itself, if he is to fight bravely. Indians sometimes rode into battle shouting, "This is a good day to fight, this is a good day to die." It is the theme and study of the American Indians and their dances that holds the interest of the boys of Explorer Post 2230, La Junta, Colorado, until most of them reach college age and even beyond. In fact, during World War II, 27 young servicemen from the Kosharis went on to complete the requirements for Eagle Scout while they were serving in the Marines, Army, Navy, and Air Force. It is the intense interest generated by the Koshari Boy Scout program that provides the incentive that has enabled this troop to turn out more Eagle Scouts, over 500 of them, than any other Boy Scout troop in the world. The Koshari Indian dancers are unique in the annals of the world. One small youth group, a thin line of khaki-garbed Boy Scouts stretching back over 50 years, led by one very dedicated scoutmaster all that time, who have built one of the finest American Indian museums and art galleries in the world, a living monument to the American Indian that people from all over the world can stop by and enjoy and learn from forever. This dance, the Sioux Big Eagle Dance, is said to be very old and once forgotten among the Sioux Indians. It is a storied dance that tells how the Sioux at one time captured eagles in traps. They would pray to one of the captured eagles, telling it of the needs of the Sioux people. Then, when all had spoken to it, they would release the eagle to carry the messages and prayers to Wakantonka, the Great Spirit. As you see, American Indian dancing is far more than just a lot of stomping around. It is a highly respected art form. And for this reason, there are American Indian folklore clubs and dance groups, both youth and adult, in France, Germany, Japan, and even Russia. Thousands of American Indian clubs provide challenge, lifetime hobbies for people all over the world. Notice, there are 9 pages of complicated instructions for just the Sioux Big Eagle Dance alone. These boys from the little dryland town of La Junta, Colorado, appear just like the kids around most any American neighborhood, but their achievements are anything but average. Perhaps the thing that makes them so high in accomplishment begins early in life when they join the Kosharis. Then they start living the code, don't wait to be a great man, be a great boy. The driving force behind all this is James Francis Berkshires. He was nicknamed Buck years ago because of his interest in Indians, and the name stuck. We had an opportunity to reminisce with Buck how the Kosharis began.
We got the idea of this kiva and many times in visits to Mesa Verde National Park and to the great kivas at Aztec National Monument and Chaco Canyon National Monument, Chetrikettle, Pueblo Bonita, Rinconada. And we know that the Indians had great ceremonial kivas like this 1,000 years ago. And one of our little kids said, gee, wouldn't it be swell if we had a great kiva? And we began to plan and build models, and it was a big dream, and I'm sure everybody thought we were crazy. But when we got started in 1948, right after the war, everybody really pitched in to help. Now, great kivas like this that the Indians built, they put 4 posts in it to hold the roof up. We didn't want any posts, so the engineer that helped us plan it, Damon Runyon from Lakewood, said he wore out 3 slide rules trying to figure out whether we could do this or not. But we spanned the 60 feet with the 620 pieces of logs that weigh approximately 40 tons, and they support themselves. Considered rather an engineering masterpiece. And the murals around our room here were painted by the famous Indian artist Valina Herrera. He signs his name Mopiwi, which means red bird in his Zia language. And they depict the Comanche dance, and the game animal or buffalo deer dance, and the buffalo hunt, and the ceremonies after the buffalo hunt, and the eagle dance, and the corn dance. And you'll notice the corn dance has a black and white figure in it. And he is the Koshari, and that's where we got our name. The name is used throughout the Southwest. It means that playmakers or clowns. And then there's Shiloh mural. This is a fabulous dance and ceremony held in Zuni, and we often go. Take the kids out, and we stay up all night seeing these giant 10-foot masked kachinas dancing in each of the Shiloh houses, and visiting the house of the gods and eating with our Zuni friends, and the snake dance. And I think the snake dance still done a little bit in the Hopi villages, but such crowds try to get there that no one can really get in unless you're an Indian. And I tell my kids that over the doorway you can see those happy Kosharis climbing over a rainbow. And that my kids climb over a rainbow because for the last 53 years, up towards a couple of thousand boys and leaders that have been part of this have had a chance to travel all over America, go to more museums and art galleries and national parks and monuments than you could count, get an education none of their parents could give them. So we climb over a rainbow because of this program in scouting that we have developed that's become so famous and draws people here from all over the world. And the crowds of people that come here to see my kids dance were just a little bit amazed that we've been so successful. We've dedicated our museum to showing the Indian as an artist, and certainly one of our great students and curator now of the museum is Marvin Holbrooke. He's a great craftsman. He's a great singer, and he helps lead the singers that do our dances, and now is more and more helping boys preserve the dances and teach them to the little kids. And certainly he's a valuable helper to me. And I think he wants to tour the museum and show you some of the priceless things we've acquired.
Our main museum area has cultural things from various groups throughout North America, Alaska, Canada, the United States, also in Central South America and Mexico, various cultural groups and cultural areas that show the beautiful things that the Indian people made. And many of these things were made for, first of all, utilitarian purposes, but also as art objects, because the Indian people love to make their things beautiful. But they made them to use, first of all. The museum has baskets from a wide variety of Indian peoples. well over 500 baskets represented in our collection from various groups, many from the California Indians, as well as Indians throughout the southwestern part of our country and other parts of our nation. Then we have pottery from various tribal groups throughout the Southwest who continue today to make pottery. Some of our finest creations are the pieces that were made by Maria Martinez from San Ildefonso Pueblo. She died in 1980, but when she first started making pottery in the early 1900s, she really developed a fine, beautiful creation that became a true symbol of the beauty of the Indian people of the Southwest and a true collector's item for many people. We have several pieces of her pottery in our exhibit area. We have many paintings in our museum collection, well over 400, depicting a wide variety of Indian objects and subject matter. Part of our collection of paintings are painted by non-Indian people who painted Indians as a subject, and then we have a large number of paintings that depict Indian subjects that were painted by Indian people themselves. We enjoy having people come to our museum so that we can share these beautiful things with them and help them to learn a little bit about the first Americans who were so important to our culture and to our nation. You can hardly travel across this nation without finding cities, towns, rivers, counties, roads that have Indian names. So I think they left us a great rich heritage that as Americans we can build on and continue to thrive and enjoy for the years to come.
I think the bottom line is here in a little town like La Junta that a bunch of Boy Scouts and leaders have created one of the finest museums of its type in the world, one of the greatest collections, and we want to not only add to it, but we want to endow it so that when our time comes, somebody else will probably have to get paid to do what a lot of us do here for nothing.
Many of Buck's and the Koshari's dreams have been realized. The beautiful kiva where they now perform is a far cry from the chicken coop where they started, but they still have dreams of building an addition to the museum large enough to display all the traits of art and Indian artifacts stored in the basement. Many Kosharis will never forget the excitement and memories of preparing for opening night performances, decorating their faces as the Indians did and putting on their Indian costumes that may have taken them hundreds of hours to construct. While the crowd streams in, Buck and the head chiefs discuss the forthcoming performance. After all the last-minute costume adjustments, Buck sits down with his boys for a few last words of encouragement.
Fellas, now, this is the first of about 24 shows. We'll do the short show will be the Comanche War Dance, Aztec, Belt, Shield, Antelope, Four Eagle, Hook, Fire Hook, Chiefs, Attack, Eagle.
So we ask you to listen to the rhythms of our great drums. Feel it as it throbs in your heart. Let your tired minds relax to the soothing beat of a great medicine drum. See again the carefree life of the red men as the Kosharis interpret the age-old scenes of their happy hunting ground. Follow them on the hunt of the shaggy buffalo, through the valleys of winding waters in search of game. Forget those you may know in the group, but live with them the lives of the great people they represent. Enter into the rhythms of the great drum. Let your hearts dance free with the winds of Shadowland. Look far into our turquoise skies to see the great thunderbird. Remember that there lives Wakanda Agua, the great spirit. May he fill your hearts with the peace of the forest children.
Ladies and gentlemen, here come the Koshari Indians. On one occasion, we happened to be visiting at Santa Clara Pueblo in New Mexico on a New Year's Day. One of our friends there, Mr. Naranjo, the governor of the Pueblo, told our boys as we watched the Indian people go from house to house doing their dance that the boys and the girls from the Indian village may travel far from home, but they're always bound to their home by their family ties, which are represented by the beautiful hand-spun, hand-woven squaw belts that they carried in the dance. This is the house blessing dance from the people of Santa Clara Pueblo, the belt dance. American Indian people, there was perhaps no more important, no more highly honored or cherished animal in all of creation than the eagle. They could see the eagles fly high into the sky, and they felt that when they flew so high that they went to visit with the gods and the spirits that live far above beyond our sight. The Indian people still today honor the eagle. If you go to the powwows and Indian gatherings, should the feathers of an eagle fall from a costume to the ground, a special ceremony is held before the feather can be picked up, so that it will bring honor and blessings to the owner. Thus, all of the Indian people still love and honor the eagle. But perhaps no more beautiful tribute can be paid to the eagle than the way the Pueblo Indians of New Mexico do their eagle dance. The summer months are very important to the Apache people, for it is during that time of year that the Apache people hold their ceremonies for the blessings of their young maidens who are coming of age and preparing for marriage. This dance is part of the ceremonies asking for long life and good health for the girls being honored. This is the crown dance, or the dance of the mountain spirits. If you go to Arizona in August, to the villages of the Hopi Indian people, in about half of the villages, you will still see the snake dance being performed. It is the culmination of a 9-day ceremony. The first 4 days are spent in gathering snakes. They go to each of the 4 major directions to gather the snakes that they need. This is a very powerful and very sacred dance to the Hopi people. It does bring the rain. We have been there on many occasions to see the dance, and on occasions we have been there when the rain fell so quickly that we could not get out of the village and down to the cars before we were being rained on. With great respect to our friends the Hopi and to the very ancient and beautiful traditions in this dance, we present for you the snake dance of the Hopi. If you go down the west coast of Mexico, in the state of Sonora, you come to the city of Obregon. At the city gate is a large bronze statue of the Yaqui deer dancer. This is the area where the Yaqui Indian people have lived, in Sonora and also in southern Arizona. This is the beautiful rendition of a unique dance wherein the deer goes through the forest, moving and drinking, and the wolf attacks him and kills him.
He built a drum and beat it low, and soon the boys were drawn. He spoke their language, shared their dreams, sitting on Ma's back lawn, and Ma put up with all the mess, the bells and yells and noise. When asked her thoughts about it all, why, gracious, they're just boys. She watched them soak a monstrous hide and lace it on the drum. Its voice reached out both far and wide, calling the boys to come. A rhythmic drum stirs dancers' feet, and so it always will, for we who danced our youth away cannot forget its thrill. God, make us thankful for this one who set us on our road and taught us to travel it happily no matter what the load. There are other boys a-knocking, and he will invite them in. Oh, God, please bless this humble man who has made us better men.
I often tell people that I can get tired and gripe and fed up and disillusioned by some of our failures. But I can come up here to the chief's room and see pictures of around 500 boys that have earned their Eagle badge here. And I will match their quality with anyone. The boys try to run the club and the boys run their clans. One of the kids said he learned how to be a leader when he was a clan chief, and the experience of being a head chief in the Kosharis set him up for being a judge.
I had a lot of memorable experiences when I was in Kosharis. I think the leadership qualities, though, were probably the highlights. I think the one thing that I carry with me and the great thought I have about Kosharis is that it's a fine example of how young people can assume responsibility and do a really wonderful, remarkable thing when they're given the opportunity and when they're stimulated to do it by attentive adult leadership and knowing adult leadership.
There are very few of those who have gone through the Koshari program, in my opinion, who have not been able to, by the time they become a brave, a chief, and involved with the leadership responsibilities that they find themselves involved in through the Koshari program, who have not been able to, if they chose to step out into the boardrooms of corporate America, to step into the courtrooms, into the operating rooms, into the professions of any sort. If they chose not to go into the professions, the ultimate point of this is that they have been able to become leaders in whatever field they have decided to go into.
During the war, on a bleak, late December afternoon, just before Christmas, word came around our little town that another one of our kids was missing in action. And I had to say something at the Christmas party the next night. It preyed on my mind, and I began to put together a poem that I called the Scoutmaster's Prayer.
A little boy came knocking at my scout room door, an awfully little fellow, just 12, no more. His eyes just danced as he watched my gang in rowdy play. "I'd like to be a scout," he said. "I'm 12, just yesterday." In the weeks to come, he found his place. A trim young scout he made. The tests he passed with eagerness, a thorough job sure paid. The oath, the laws, the knots and flag were taken to his heart. A better man he was sure to be, though he had just begun to start. By the candle-lighted darkness, I watched his round face beam as the oath and law he pledged to keep. Just like a prayer, it seemed. And the years to come were happy ones as we followed the trail the greater men had laid for us, far up where eagles sail. I watched him grow from boy to man. The days were far too few to try and teach the important things that scouting said were true. I didn't know so long ago our nation he would defend. I only saw a job to do, a helping hand to lend. Now he's flying higher still with silver wings up there. I pray to God the job I did was better than just fair. He thanked me once for what I did so many years ago. It was not his thanks that paid me, because he didn't know that greater thanks he had given me 1,000 times before by his dancing eyes and smiling face. Could one ask for more? Oh, there are other boys a-knocking. I must invite them in. Please, God, give me strength to make them better men.
When I first came into Kosharis, I was kind of different than everybody else. I was wheelchair bound. When I was in the 6th grade, I came down with a disease called viral encephalitis. I was in a coma for about 10 days. I lost the use of my legs. I was paralyzed from the waist down, and I remained in that condition clear through the 6th grade and most of the 7th grade. And when I was in the 7th grade, I got a letter in the mail, and it was with Koshari stationery, and it said that you're invited to become a Koshari. Well, my first experience with Buck Brashears was on the telephone. I called him up, and I can still remember it vividly. I said, "Mr. Brashears, I don't know if you know this, but I got an invitation to become a Koshari. And I'm in a wheelchair. And he said to me, he said, well, yeah, I kind of knew that. Come on up. So me and my family did just that. We went up to family night, watched the boys dance, went home, and we discussed it. The whole family got involved in it, my brother-in-law, my sister, my mom and dad. I was kind of pensive about the whole thing, being in a wheelchair. I really didn't think, you know, I had much of a shot at it. And my family convinced me to go ahead and give it a try. So I did. And at least half the reason I'm walking again is because of that shot I gave it. Koshare is one of the best therapeutic agents I could think of. I mean, it gave me something to think about other than my condition. It kind of gave me hope, I guess, something to look forward to. Got my mind off my condition. I didn't feel as sorry for myself. I was busy.
The thing that has impressed the leaders of the National Scout Organization is that almost all of the instruction for these performances is done by the older boys. Soon it will be these young boys who are doing the instruction. It all adds up to great preparation for adult living and the world of responsibility and work. It exactly fulfills the scouting goal of turning boys into capable men. The Kosharis are on their way to perform at the opening ceremonies of the World Cycling Championships before a crowd of 10,000. More than that, their performance will be telecast worldwide. All their hard work at dance practice seems highly worthwhile to them at times such as this. It is this sort of thing that has made the Kosharis internationally famous. You can bet that after going through this experience, these boys will have trouble settling down and going to sleep tonight. They will really be hyper kids when they get home. Probably their parents will be just as sleepless. I'm sure most of these boys are grateful for the wonderful opportunity they have to be in such a group as the Kosharis and have parents with the vision to encourage them to stay with it, although it means a lot of hard work. So many kids let wonderful opportunities pass without taking advantage of them because they can't see the long-term advantages.
We get inspired by things that other people do and say, and this one means a lot to me, that the great scout leader that said, 100 years from now, it will not matter what kind of a car I drove, what kind of a house I lived in, how much money I had in the bank, but the world might be better because I was important in the life of a boy.
Funding for this program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through a grant from the Pacific Mountain Network Program Fund.